I still remember the exact sound my phone made. A simple ding. One of those innocuous notification tones that usually meant nothing. Some ad, maybe a random app update. But that day, that sound split my world clean in two. It was late. Jenna had gone to bed an hour earlier after complaining about a headache. I stayed up in the den, sipping on the last of a cold beer and mindlessly scrolling through my phone. That's when I saw the message. It was from Derek. That alone wasn't strange. Derek Shaw had been my best friend since 8th grade. We'd played baseball together, crashed cars together, got each other out of bar fights, and stood by one another through life's messes. He was the godfather of my daughter, for Christ's sake. He was family. But Derek never texted me this late, and certainly not one-word messages like this. Sorry. That was it. Just sorry. No context, no follow-up. I stared at it, confused. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened Jenna's iPad. We shared the Apple ID, and for the longest time, it didn't matter. She used the iPad to read cookbooks or check Pinterest. I barely touched it. But something about that message, it lit a fire in my gut. The iPad synced messages automatically. I opened the Messages app, tapped on Derek's name, and then I saw them. Not one or two messages, not something that could be brushed off. I scrolled up. Hundreds. Can't stop thinking about last night. You smelled like vanilla and sin. Wish I could have you all weekend. And her replies. Jesus. She told him things I hadn't heard from her in years. She laughed in texts, sent photos, not nude, but intimate. Her in bed, her in our shower, her wearing the old college sweatshirt I thought she'd thrown out. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight, like someone was sitting on me. I put the iPad down, walked to the kitchen, poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, and just stood there staring into the sink. Everything. 15 years of marriage, our daughter, the house we built, the nights we danced in the living room barefoot, crashed into a twisted, ugly reality. She was sleeping with Derek. Not just once, for months, maybe longer. I didn't wake her that night. I couldn't even look at her. Instead, I went outside and sat in my truck until the sun came up. I watched our neighborhood come to life. The joggers, the sprinklers, the kids heading to the bus stop. Like I wasn't even part of it anymore. Like I had slipped into some parallel world where nothing made sense. By 7 a.m., I'd made a decision. I walked back inside, calm but cold. Jenna was in the kitchen, wearing my flannel shirt, humming to herself as she stirred eggs in a pan. She smiled when she saw me. "Morning, babe." I said nothing. She tilted her head. "You okay?" I held up the iPad and set it gently on the counter. Her face went white. The spatula slipped from her hand and hit the tile with a loud clack. "I read everything," I said. "Every word, every photo. Every memory you and I ever made. He was inside it." "Caleb, wait." "Don't." I cut her off. "Don't insult either of us by pretending this was a mistake." She opened her mouth, closed it again. Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I laughed. A dry, humorless sound. "That's the part you didn't mean to do?" She reached for my hand. I stepped back. I didn't want her touch, not anymore. "I want you out," I said quietly. "Today. Call whoever you need, your mother, a friend. I don't care. Just be gone by the time I get back from work." "Caleb, please, let's talk." "There's nothing to talk about, Jenna. You already said everything, just not to me." She cried. She begged. She even tried to spin it like it meant nothing, like Derek was the one who pushed for it. But I wasn't stupid. I wasn't going to be played like some fool. I left without another word. I drove straight to work and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. I didn't go in. I couldn't face people. I called my boss and told him I needed a few days off for a family emergency. He didn't ask questions. That was the beginning, the moment the illusion cracked. And deep down, I knew this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the two people I trusted more than anyone in the world. And what they did to me behind my back. I spent that entire day in my truck, parked near the river. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, feeling like the air had been sucked out of the world. At some point, I realized I hadn't eaten, hadn't even checked my phone. I didn't want to. The only person I wanted to talk to was gone, because she was the one who did this. When I finally drove home that evening, the house was too quiet. Jenna was gone. No note, no explanation, just gone. Half her clothes were missing, the top drawer in the bathroom emptied, and the smell of her perfume still lingered in the hall like a ghost I couldn't exorcise. I walked into the kitchen and saw that she had cleaned everything, like she was trying to make a neat exit from a completely wrecked life. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hollow. That night, I slept on the couch even though the bed was technically mine. I couldn't bear to lie down where she had been, where maybe they had been. The thought of Derek in my home, breathing the same air, touching the same things, killed something inside me. The next morning, I got a message from Jenna. "Can we talk? Please, I need to explain." I didn't answer. 2 hours later, I got one from Derek. "I messed up, man. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I need to talk to you. Please." I didn't answer him either. The thing is, it wasn't just the betrayal. It was how casual they made it look. Like their affair lived in the cracks of my life. Between grocery runs, school pickups, Friday pizza nights. They didn't even have the decency to be serious about it. That hurt more than if it had been some wild, emotional, once-in-a-lifetime connection. Number. It was just routine. I spent that whole week dodging people. I told my job I needed more time. I didn't go to the gym. I skipped church. I avoided my own mother's calls. But news travels fast in towns like Greenville. By Friday, my sister Heather showed up at my door uninvited. She brought pie. She always brought pie when things were bad. This time, it was cherry. She didn't say anything for the first 10 minutes, just poured me coffee, sat across from me, and waited. Finally, I said, "You heard?" She nodded. "Jenna called me." I clenched my jaw. Of course she did. She didn't tell me much, just that you found out and she's staying at her mom's for now. "Good," I muttered. "Hope she stays there." Heather hesitated. She said it's been going on for a while, that she regrets it. I barked a bitter laugh. "Regret doesn't are your best friend?" "I know," she said quietly. "I trusted him," I said. "I trusted her. I built a life on this foundation, Heather. And now I look back and wonder how much of it was even real." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "The life you built was real. Your love was real. You were real. They were the ones who faked it." That hit hard. I nodded, unable to speak. Later that evening, Jenna came to the house. I didn't let her in. We talked through the screen door. She looked small, pale, like she hadn't slept. I wanted to hate her, to slam the door in her face. But I also wanted answers. "Why him?" I asked. She wiped her eyes. "I don't know." "Don't give me that," I snapped. "You always know. You plan everything. You're meticulous. So why him? Why my best friend? She swallowed. Because he made me feel seen. Because we were going through a rough patch, and you were working late, and he listened. I stared at her. And you couldn't come to me? Your husband? I was scared, she whispered. Of what? Of losing you. You lost me the minute you opened your legs for him, I said. My voice was like ice. She winced. I deserve that. You deserve worse. She didn't argue. I want a divorce, I said flatly. She shook her head. Please, Caleb, let's do counseling. Let's fight for this. There's nothing left to fight for. You destroyed it. I still love you, she whispered. I stepped back. That's the worst part. I almost believe you. And I closed the door. I stood there for a long time after she left, staring at nothing, the sound of her car driving off echoing like thunder in my ears. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next time I heard from Derek, it wasn't through text. He showed up at my work. I was in the warehouse trying to stay busy, moving boxes, organizing pallets, doing anything that kept my hands occupied and my mind from drifting back into hell. My manager had been kind enough to let me come back on light duties. He knew something was up but didn't ask questions. I heard the door open behind me and turned around. There he was, Derek Shaw, the guy who had been the best man at my wedding, the guy who toasted Jenna and me with that stupid grin and said we were forever goals. I froze. For a second, I honestly didn't know what to do. He raised his hands like he was surrendering. Caleb, man, please don't hit me. I didn't say anything, just stared at him. The sight of his face made my stomach twist. He looked rough, unshaven, hollow-eyed. He wasn't sleeping either. I've been trying to reach you, he said quietly. I know. I don't know what to say, man. Try the truth, I snapped. That'd be new. He nodded slowly. Okay. I messed up. Bad. I never meant for this to happen. I swear to you, Caleb, I didn't go looking for it. Don't, I interrupted. Don't you dare say it just happened. Like this was some accident. You don't trip and fall into someone's wife, Derek. He flinched. I know, okay? I know what I did, and I hate myself for it. I laughed bitterly, not as much as I do. He swallowed hard. I don't expect you to forgive me. Hell, I wouldn't. I needed you to know that it's over. It's been over since you found out. I haven't spoken to her since. Congratulations, I muttered. You want a medal? Number, I want you to know I didn't do it to hurt you. But you did hurt me. You both did. You didn't just cheat. You stabbed me in the back with a knife I handed you. He didn't have anything to say to that. Just stood there, blinking like a kicked dog. I trusted you with everything, I said. I let you into my family, my home. You were supposed to be Uncle Derek, not... My voice broke. I couldn't even finish the sentence. I was drunk the first time, he said. That's not an excuse, just the truth. It was after that charity event in March. You went home early. Jenna stayed. One thing led to another. I stared at him. You remember the date? He looked away. Of course he did. I took a step closer. Get this through your head, Derek. I don't care if you were drunk, high, lonely, or possessed. You chose this, over and over again, and now you have to live with it. I do, he said softly. Good. Because I'm done talking. You're dead to me. I walked away. He didn't follow. That night, I finally told my mom. I hadn't wanted to. She loved Jenna like a daughter, but I needed someone in my corner. She listened without interrupting, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just sat there, breathing slowly, her eyes narrowing as the story unfolded. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "Well, that explains the tension I felt last Easter." "What do you mean?" "I caught a look they shared when you went to get drinks. At the time, I told myself I was imagining things." I shook my head in disbelief. She reached out and touched my face. "You're going to get through this. It'll hurt like hell, but you'll get there. I don't even know who I am without her." "Yes, you do. You just forgot for a while." The next morning, I met with a lawyer. Clean, efficient, no-nonsense guy named Walter Hess. He listened, took notes, and explained everything clearly. Because South Carolina is a no-fault divorce state, the affair wouldn't change much legally. But the custody of our daughter, finances, and property division would all be negotiated. I told him I wanted joint custody, but Jenna wasn't getting the house. He nodded. "We can push for that. As long as you're stable and willing to co-parent, the court usually leans toward joint." I left the office feeling like I'd finally taken a step forward. But that night, Jenna called again. She was crying. "I miss you," she said. "I miss us. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I know I ruined everything, but please don't shut me out." I was silent for a long time. Then I said, "You didn't just ruin us. You ruined me, Jenna. You shattered the man I used to be." She sobbed. "I'm going to fight for our daughter. But you and we're done." Click. That was the first night I slept without waking up from the same nightmare. The silence in the house was the loudest it had ever been. It's strange how you don't notice the small things until they're gone. The soft shuffle of her slippers in the morning, the clink of her coffee spoon against the mug, the sound of her humming while folding laundry. Now it all felt like a memory left behind in an empty museum. Jenna had moved in with her mother. I heard from a neighbor that she'd taken our daughter, Chloe, with her. That stung more than I expected. I didn't fight it right away. I didn't want my little girl caught in the crossfire. But the idea of her waking up every day in a house with that woman made my stomach churn. I spent most of my evenings fixing things. The fence gate, the leaking faucet, a loose tile in the upstairs bathroom. I didn't need to do any of it. But I needed something to do with my hands. One night, I went into the attic to find a box of old photos. I was looking for something, maybe proof that I hadn't imagined the love we once had, proof that Jenna hadn't always been like this. I found the box, all right. But tucked beneath the photo albums was something I wasn't expecting, a stack of cards and letters from Derek, not recent ones. These were old. Some dated back nearly 10 years, birthday cards, notes, jokes between friends. But one in particular made my blood go cold. It was a postcard, no return address, just a simple message on the back. "If you ever leave him, I'll be here. Always. D." There was no date, no signature, but the handwriting was his. I sat there on the dusty wooden floor, staring at that one sentence for over an hour. How long had this been going on? How long had he been waiting? The next morning, I called my lawyer and told him to file the divorce papers immediately. I didn't care how clean or dirty it got. I just needed out. He agreed. "She hasn't contested anything yet. We'll move fast." Later that week, I had my first overnight with Chloe. I picked her up from her grandmother's house. Jenna didn't come to the door. And we drove to the park before heading home. Chloe was only 7, but she had the emotional radar of a much older soul. "Daddy, are you and Mommy still mad?" she asked, swinging her legs from the park bench. I paused. "We're not mad, sweetie. We're just trying to figure things out." Are you getting divorced? The words hit me like a punch. I blinked. Who told you that? Nana said it by accident. I nodded slowly. Yeah, we are. She was quiet for a moment. Does that mean I'll have 2 houses now? Probably. She looked up at me. Will you still be there when I lose my first tooth? That undid me. I pulled her into a hug and held her so tight she squeaked. Always, I whispered. You hear me? Always. That night, we made grilled cheese and tomato soup, watched a movie, and built a pillow fort in the living room. It was the first time the house felt alive again. The next day, Jenna texted me. Just one line. You're a great dad. Thank you, I didn't reply. I didn't want her gratitude. I wanted back the 10 years she quietly stole from me. A few days later, I ran into Derek again, this time at the grocery store. We made eye contact near the frozen food section. He looked like hell. I kept walking. He followed me down the next aisle. I didn't know you'd be here, he muttered. It's my town too, I said, not looking at him. I've been going to therapy. I threw a box of waffles into my cart. Good for you. I keep thinking how I lost both of you. I turned to him slowly. You didn't lose me. You chose to give me up. Don't get it twisted. He swallowed. I miss our friendship. You miss the access, I said. You miss being part of something good. But you burned that bridge and salted the ground. He had the decency to nod. Do me a favor, Derek. Next time you see me, don't. And I walked away. Back home, I started boxing up wedding photos. I took down the framed vows from the hallway, the smiling family portraits from the living room. Every image felt like a lie someone else had photoshopped me into. But I left one picture up. A small photo of Chloe and me on the beach last summer. Just the 2 of us. Her hair blowing wild in the wind, my arms wrapped around her. That one was still real. That one was mine. A month passed. The paperwork was in motion. The custody schedule was being worked out. The house, still full of ghosts, began to feel more like mine again, less like a crime scene, and more like a place to rebuild. But no matter how many drawers I emptied or photos I boxed up, one question kept gnawing at me. How did I not see it? How do you live beside someone every day and not feel the shift? Was I blind? Numb? Or did some part of me already know and choose not to look? I took that question to therapy. I'd started seeing someone, Dr. Palmer, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a softer voice. The kind of person who didn't tell you what you wanted to hear, but made you realize you already knew it. You weren't blind, Caleb, she said during our 3rd session. You were trusting. That's not a flaw. That's the tragedy. I didn't know whether to feel comforted or foolish. She asked me once, "What was your marriage like before this?" And I told her. I told her about the road trips and burnt pancakes and the nights we stayed up late talking about nothing. I told her how Jenna laughed like she meant it, how she used to kiss me on the cheek every morning before I even opened my eyes. But somewhere, I said, things got quiet. Quiet isn't always bad, Dr. Palmer replied. This wasn't peaceful quiet. It was distance, like she was living just slightly to the left of me. She nodded. And did you ever ask her about it? No, I admitted. I thought it would pass. I thought, I don't know, that life just gets harder after kids, after work, after routine. I didn't want to rock the boat. Sometimes rocking the boat is how you stop it from sinking. That stuck with me. One Friday evening, Chloe was over again. She brought a school drawing, a crayon picture of the three of us holding hands. It hit me like a bullet. She hadn't drawn Derek. She hadn't even drawn her grandmother's house, just me, Jenna, and her, under a big yellow sun with giant smiles on our faces. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After she went to bed, I sat on the porch, looking out at the yard. The porch swing creaked in the breeze. The stars blinked in and out behind low clouds. Everything felt almost peaceful. Until my phone rang. It was Jenna. I almost didn't pick up. But something in me said, "You need to hear this." I answered. "Hi," she said, her voice quiet. "Hey." There was a long pause. "I signed the papers," she said finally. "Everything's set." "Okay. I wanted to tell you, I'm moving." That got my attention. "Where?" "Atlanta. My sister has a spare room and I think it's best if I put some distance between everything. For me, for Chloe, for you." I rubbed my eyes. "That's a big step." "I know. What about Chloe's school?" "She'll finish the semester here. I'll come back every week until it's done. Then we'll talk about long-term arrangements." It hit me then, how final this was. Jenna wasn't just moving out of the house. She was moving out of our lives. "You think this helps?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "But staying here, seeing you, knowing what I've done, it's like reopening the wound every day." "You think it doesn't reopen for me?" I asked. She sighed. "I don't expect you to forgive me, Caleb. I know that's a mountain too tall to climb, but I'm trying not to make things worse." I didn't have a response, just silence. Then she said something I didn't expect. "Do you think we ever really loved each other? Or were we just two people who wanted the idea of love?" I stared into the dark. "I think we loved each other," I said. "I think we just stopped fighting for it." She didn't speak. "You had a choice, Jenna. 1,000 moments to turn back, and you didn't." "I know. I wish you hadn't destroyed what we had. Because at one point, it was something good." "I know," she whispered again. "I remember." Then she hung up. I sat on that porch for a long time after, listening to the wind, thinking about love, not the storybook version, but the messy, fragile, real kind. We had it, and we lost it. But maybe, just maybe, that didn't mean I had to lose everything. Spring came early to Greenville that year. The dogwoods outside the house bloomed bright and full, like they were trying to prove that something broken could still come back in color. It had been nearly 4 months since the night I found the messages. 4 months of hard truths, custody meetings, quiet evenings, and learning how to sleep in a bed alone. I had the house to myself again, but not in the way I ever imagined. Chloe's drawings now lined the fridge. One of them had me holding a fishing rod and her holding a giant pink fish with a crooked smile. I hadn't even taken her fishing yet. But apparently, she believed we would. She gave me that drawing the last time I dropped her off at Jenna's mother's place. Before climbing out of the car, she leaned forward and said, "Daddy, I like you better now." I blinked. "What do you mean? You don't yell anymore? You laugh more? You listen?" I didn't know whether to be proud or ashamed. I hugged her tight and said, "I'm trying to be better." "I think you are," she said. It stuck with me. I started making changes, not for Jenna, not to get revenge, not even to prove anything, just because I finally had the space to see myself clearly. I joined a Saturday morning hiking group. I called my sister more. I stopped drinking late at night and started reading again. I even picked up my guitar for the first time in years. and bit by bit, I felt human again. One afternoon, I saw Jenna from a distance. She was getting into her car outside a grocery store. Chloe was with her, dancing ahead, holding a purple balloon. For the first time since everything happened, I didn't feel pain, just a quiet kind of gratitude that my daughter was smiling. I didn't wave. Jenna didn't see me. But I walked back to my truck, feeling like I had finally closed the door from the inside. When the divorce was finalized, I didn't celebrate. I just went home, made dinner, and took a walk through the neighborhood. The same streets where Derek and I used to ride bikes as kids, where Jenna and I once picked out names for our unborn daughter, where life had unfolded in quiet, ordinary moments I thought would last forever. Now it was just me. And strangely, that was okay. I'd been through fire. And while I wasn't unscathed, I was still standing. I learned that love isn't always enough. That trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. That forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not the person who hurt you. And that sometimes the most important thing you can do is start again. I'm not the same man I was when this all began, but maybe that's not such a bad thing. Because the man I'm becoming, the one who tucks his daughter in every Friday night, who makes pancakes with too much syrup, who can sit in silence without needing to fill it, is someone I finally recognize. And I like him. If this story hit home, maybe it's because you've stood where I stood. Maybe you've looked someone you loved in the eye and realized they weren't coming back. Not really. But you came out stronger, quieter, wiser. If you're still standing, that's already a kind of victory. And if you want to hear more stories that understand, the kind that don't sugarcoat, but speak to the heart, you're in the right place. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Not for me, for you. Because sometimes it helps to be reminded you're not alone.